Oh, to you also? Then I think the page that you stopped at was 55 last time.
Okay.
So
Okay. Well, yeah, we're going to go through more in depth, and then we'll continue.
maybe
Okay.
well we could have stopped at 53 then. I'm not
53.
sure. I don't know where we stopped, but the print off that you gave us was until 55.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Okay.
And then I have notes that go beyond that go to 53, but I think I read beyond that for you. So
Okay. We'll go through, summarize what we did. Okay. Okay. So basically, what we talked about was the philosopher presenting, right, his perspective regarding the dream, right, of the king of Kuzar. So he came up with the idea of the active intellect, if you remember. And remember we talked about that? Yes? No?
The idea
Of active intellect.
he goes to the first philosophers.
What?
Yeah. He asked philosophers to interpret his dream.
He what?
He asked philosophers
Mm-hmm.
to interpret his dream.
Yeah. So I'm saying that the philosopher was claiming that there's a ability when you pure your mind and your soul
to attach yourself to
yeah. Okay, remember that or no?
Yes, definitely.
See, we're all confused a little bit. Maybe we should go back then. We talked about that.
It's that existential experience.
I don't.
Finding an attachment to the active intellect and having that moment where you attach yourself to the active intellect.
No, but the philosopher says it's not a moment. The goal is to attach yourself internally. It's not a one moment thing.
But get to the
until he gets there. It is temporarily. It's a moment. On a moment. Yeah. Okay, so we said, if you remember, that the philosopher claims that God has nothing to do with you. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we explained all that. Why? Remember? Okay, that according to the philosopher, the God, whatever he calls God, is something perfect that is lacking nothing. And when you have an intention or will, then that is emphasizing that you are lacking. Remember? So therefore, the God that you're talking about, what?
Therefore, God has no will. And
Right.
Has no intention.
Exactly. And therefore, he has no relationship, no bond, no hashgacha, okay, over you. Okay, so we went through that.
But then he realizes that there's a problem with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we said, what was the solution? That
the world was created with intention, with purpose.
No, we didn't say that. We didn't say that it was with intention or a purpose. What we said was, since there is sort of a connection, because there's wisdom, there's this intuition that you receive, so you must admit that there is sort of a connection. However, if I'm going to relate it to the Creator, then that means that there is will and intention, and that I cannot. So therefore, they invented the system of cause or effect, and that where it's like a domino, where there's a first reason, second reason, third reason, and then it goes on, but with no direct link to the Creator. Okay? No?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand. I understood a couple things differently from last week.
No, so this is the right way.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Okay. Then we talked about. So therefore, there was no creation. Okay, because you can't say that. If you say there was creation, then there was will and intention. So therefore, the world existed forever. Right? There's no beginning, and every human being was born from the one that was previous to him, and that's forever. Then he talked about, okay, every human being was born with his own potential, characteristics, attributes, atmosphere, background, the way his parents genetically, say, brought to him the potential that he has, okay? And location, geography, where he was raised, okay, that also had an impact on the individual. Okay, so that was another factor we mentioned, and then let's see what else. Okay, then we mentioned the idea of the prime cause. Okay, that everything is related to it, but not intentionally. Okay, so that's what we just mentioned a minute ago. We say that every individual has his qualities, his potential, according to his background. The philosopher is the elite that has the potential to reach the top of the human mind. And there's the lowest, okay, as we mentioned before, we don't have to go through that again. Although he said that even the philosopher that was born with those abilities, it's only potentially, and he has to work very hard in order to fulfill them. Okay, so we mentioned all that. Okay, and then we're talking about the, say, the purpose and the goal as in the eyes of the philosopher, which is to attach himself to the active intellect. Okay, so maybe you can go through this again just to refresh your mind, and then we'll go more in depth in commentaries regarding this. Okay, so if you have page 50, the bottom of 51, and then we'll continue from there. And
the abilities?
yeah. If some of you can share together, because I don't know if we will have enough.
Page 47?
No, 51. 51 on the bottom. Okay, the abilities within the individual. You all have it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Any volunteers reading? No?
The abilities within the individual.
Just allow that you all can hear.
The abilities within the individual are only potential abilities. They can only be realized through study and training. Once this is accomplished, the individual's capabilities, depending upon what qualities and deficiencies the individual is inherently meant to have, are realized. The different levels within humanity are endless.
Okay, carry on.
Next page, yeah?
Yeah. One who is.
51, 52. One who is complete is affected by a divine light, which is called the active intellect. His inspired intellect attaches itself so completely to this light that the man and the active intellect are indistinguishable from each other. At this point, all of his limbs are harnessed and focused toward performing only the most perfect acts at the
At the most appropriate times.
times. opportune times and under the most favorable circumstances. It is as if all one's faculties are complete pawns of the active intellect, having nothing to do anymore with his primitive, passive, and physically affected intellect, whereas previously he would uh, vacillate between being inspired by active intellect and doing a good deed, and reverting to the dormant physical side of his intellect and sinning.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, 53, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He now does only good. This level is the ultimate anticipated level for the perfect human being. For when one reaches this level, his soul is purified of any doubts. The soul is able to understand all areas of wisdom completely. One's soul becomes like an angel, specifically acquiring the lowest level within the class of angels, which grants one a sense of being incorporeal. One is then on the level of the active intellect. One is then
Yeah.
the active intellect itself is an angel whose level is just below the angel who oversees the moon. The angels are completely devoid of physicality
Physicality.
and have always been this way. They also live eternally, and thus they never have to fear destruction. It therefore follows that anybody who has become one with the active intellect likewise never has to fear destruction. It is very comforting to know that one is in the same group as Hermes, Asclepius, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. If one reaches this level, then he and they and everyone else who reaches that level become a single everlasting unit.
Yeah. Okay, let's say up to here, and then we'll carry on. What? Okay, so okay. So the philosopher, his goal in life is to devote himself to wisdom, to the intellect, and doing that by abandoning every other aspect in the field of life, especially materialism and physicality, and ignoring it, not giving it any value, and just focusing on developing his wisdom and intellect. And by doing so, he claims that there's this thing called active intellect, and the more you devote yourself to it, and the more you next page we'll see that he talks about fixing our characteristics and attributes. The more you do that, then the more chance you have to attach yourself eternally to that active intellect. And later on we'll see that the philosopher is saying that the dream that you're looking for to connect yourself to the Eternal One, and the way we see it as philosophers, is connecting yourself to the active intellect, and that is the yeah.
It's like Nevuah.
Yes, not exactly. We'll see at the end of this paragraph that he'll mention prophecy, but it's a side effect. It's not the main thing. Okay, in Judaism, we see prophecy as a purpose. Okay, in philosophy, he'll say he can't. He ignores it. He's like, okay, yeah, there's a thing called prophecy, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to intellectually connect and relate yourself to the active intellect and always receive the precise, correct thoughts, the right time, right place, doing the right things, the right time, the right place, being objective about everything in life. Okay.
Being very aware of Hashem.
When?
Does mean being very aware of Hashem and of everything that's happening around.
No,
It's
because
not the philosopher says it, not the Rabbi, not Rav Halevi.
the philosopher says there is no Hashem. Okay, there is no connection.
Always? That's like the core of it?
Yeah. As he said, there's this like perfect intellect, okay, active intellect, computer, whatever you want to call it, somewhere in the space. The more you study, the more you devote yourself to your intellect, then you have a chance to wirelessly, okay, connect to it, and you have a special Wi-Fi, whatever.
So by reasoning, you get the context from the philosophic perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
So is the point of setting up this model, is it to destroy the entire model and say this is what philosophers think, it's all incorrect, or they're kind of getting towards something but they're not quite there?
I don't understand exactly what the question is.
So is he's setting up the active intellect is like this is what philosophers think.
This is the purpose,
The philosophy that was presented to King
Kuzari,
was that he asked them. He basically asked them, what's God in connection to us, and they responded that God is perfect. So if such a perfect being has no will, because it has no requirement for will, which means that it has no requirement for a connection to us. Therefore, by that logic, there was never a God, because he never needed to be activated, never needed to be active to us. We were merely born from what was
previous.
So saying that we always existed, and there was no beginning.
Right. But what's
this philosophy that was presented to him?
Okay. And so
it's not all philosophy that he's.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's then the Kuzari, this is the model that's presented as what philosophy.
This philosophy is not representing a specific philosophy, okay, as we mentioned before. It is representing the structure of general philosophy.
Okay.
Of the point of view.
And so so this is what the philosopher believes as being presented to the king of
yeah.
And so is any of what is in what this philosopher is presenting to him, is any of it going to find like how do I say? It's all just going to be one model that's going to be like, this is what he believes, and it's irrelevant going forward? Like, once we start getting to, like, what is it that a Jew believes?
Yeah.
So it's all going to be irrelevant? Or are there going to be things that touched on?
Mostly it will be irrelevant, but some points will, referring to the philosopher's points of view in specific areas, they will come back later on in the book.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see what else we had here. Okay, so we said the purpose is attaching yourself to wisdom and to the active intellect. However, the philosopher must admit that his studies, his understanding, okay, his wisdom is external to him. It's not himself. It's not his being. Okay, it's like if you can see for B, okay, this wisdom, but the wisdom of the bee, meaning the way it flies and how it functions, is not owned by the bee. It doesn't belong to the bee. Rather, it is like loaned to him for him to live. So similarly, the philosopher realizes that if we compare a bee to a human being, the only difference would be is with the IQ, and that the human being has bigger wisdom and bigger comprehension. But that's it. And that the more he devotes himself to studying and understanding, he realizes that he doesn't own it. He just has that moment that he has a grip on it, and then it's gone. Okay? So that's why his purpose and his goal is to reach the status where it's not a one moment thing, rather he owns that wisdom. He belongs to that status. Okay, and that's where comes the idea of the active intellect. Okay, so the first stage is that he's trying to achieve that level, and sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. And that's where he is passive or, let's say, not proactive. He's in between. Okay, the second stage is where he unites completely, all together, okay, with that spiritual world, and his personal identity is like canceled. It's okay. It's not him anymore. And then all the deeds lose their value, and all the materialistic world loses its value as well, because it's all pure intellect, pure abstract. Therefore, a person that reaches that level has no fear of elimination of the physical body, okay? Because he knows that spiritually he's eternal, and he reached the company of, as he mentioned before, Socrates, Plato, and the rest of those philosophers. And he says, as a metaphor, that could be what you're looking for, the king of Kuzar, as the will of God. That's the purpose, to reach that active intellect. And being with your intellect eternally attached to that abstract spiritual active intellect, then you reach the goal, you achieved the purpose in life. Okay, so where did we stop? On
Bottom of 53.
bottom of 53. Okay, so let's continue on, and we'll give more commentary on that. Okay, you want to read?
Sure.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
bottom of 53, the word so?
Yeah.
So, continued the philosopher, becoming close to the Creator, as you put it, is only a figurative term. What you should do is pursue and seek out the true knowledge of all things to the point where your intellect becomes active and no longer passive. Attach yourself to the paths of the righteous, both in traits and deeds, because this will help you acquire the vision of truth as well as attachment and resemblance to the active intellect. By emulating the righteous, you will acquire the traits of contentment, humility, and submissiveness to others, as well as the other positive traits. You will also praise and elevate the prime cause in the process. But your objective is doing all
In doing so.
in doing all this should not be to receive a reward or to avoid retribution, as the prime cause neither rewards nor punishes, but rather to become completely one with the active intellect. By doing so, you will arrive at absolute truth, and thereby you will be able to describe the prime cause correctly and know all things as they really are. These practices, therefore, rectify one's intellect. Once you have integrated this philosophy within yourself, you need not concern with which specific dogma, set of rituals, and other actions, and choice of words or language you will follow. If you like, you can even fabricate your own religion, which promotes humility, exalts the prime cause, helps you correct your traits, and does the same for your family members and your fellow countrymen, if you can get them to listen to you. Or you might adopt the intellectually stimulating rituals of the philosophers. But your ultimate objective should be purification of the soul so you can perceive things more accurately. In summation, seek purification of the heart, and whatever method works for you, as long as you understand the principles of wisdom clearly. This is how you can attain your goal, which is to attach yourself to that ethereal entity, the active intellect. In doing so, the active intellect may supply you with prophetic knowledge about the future by showing you authentic images and dreams and visions.
Okay, so what we saw here according to the philosopher, is that moral deeds, their purpose is not to bring redemption. Rather, it is to narrow as much as possible reality, the materialistic aspect of reality. So there's no meaning to it, there's no value to it, it's nothing, meaningless. So morality doesn't have a self-value, okay, contrary completely to Judaism, okay. Rather, it helps you to purify your thought and to let go of imagination, delusions, distractions that might prevent you and bother you to attach yourself to the active intellect. Like, I don't know, maybe a simple, funny example. If somebody potentially has the ability to attach himself to the active intellect, but he has short temper, and his neighbor always gets on his nerves, and he easily can be turned on by it and get into arguments and even physical fights with him, and for no reason, for nothing. So a mentor of that person will tell him, listen, you're wasting so much energy and time in arguments with this neighbor, and if you would perfect your behavior and your self-control, you would have more time to devote yourself to study the philosophy and be closer and more able to attach yourself to the active intellect. So why waste your time and energy with these nonsense materialistic arguments? Ignore it. How do you ignore it? Okay, so you have to work on self-control and fix your characteristics, but it's not a self goal. Okay, where in Judaism it is. Okay, it's just a means towards the goal of becoming attached to the active intellect. Okay, elevating the prime cause is also a means in order to detach yourself from materialistic aspects in reality. Because when you see religious people, not only in Judaism, that are admiring and elevating the prime cause, they emphasize on how almighty and great and brave the prime cause is, the God is. Okay, but in philosophy, they want to detach themselves from those kind of characteristics and referring to. So they don't want to say he's big, because when you say he's big, then he's limited, he's physical, he's whatever. So then they want to narrow it as to something very pure and abstract. Okay? So bottom line is, the purpose is to know the truth objectively, okay, relying on the active intellect, to set ourselves free from delusions, from the materialistic world. And therefore, whatever method, whatever system, whatever even religion that you need that will be a means to that goal is okay, is valid. Okay, so that's why philosopher said here, if you have a mental need to solve your issues, then you can even invent your own religion. Why? Because there's no meaning to it, there's no purpose to it, there's no agenda here. It's just a means to the goal of setting yourself free from all what's going on here in this world, and all the commotion and all the involvement with reality and society.
This is for people in general, or like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the philosopher's standpoint view is that religion is closer to a government.
To
a government. Its purpose is mainly to serve the order.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah. We'll see that later on, but yeah. Okay, so there's no true, correct method in order to reach that point. Whatever helps you as an individual is okay. It's good, as long as you reach and connect yourself to the active intellect. Okay? It doesn't matter if you want to adopt whatever religion, if you want to adopt the philosopher's concepts, it's all good. Okay, there's pluralism here. There's no absolute truth to it. Okay, then, right, you said here, right at the end of the paragraph, he was relating to prophecy, right? You saw that? In doing so, the active intellect may supply you with prophetic knowledge about the future by showing you authentic images and dreams and visions. Okay, but I think you have to underline the word may. It's not a guarantee. Okay, where I'm not saying that in Judaism there is a guarantee that if you're worthy to receive prophecy, you will, but it is a purpose. And here it's a side thing that maybe not. It's not that important. What is important is that you reached and connected yourself to the active intellect. Okay, so again, prophecy is not a goal. It's not a purpose. It has no meaning. It has no value. So again, so again, when we're claiming, according to the philosopher, that he detaches himself from this world and he connects himself only to the abstract and the abstract world, right? So his approach to this materialistic world is just as a means to reach the atmosphere that encourages thought, encourages study. But prophecy is exactly the opposite. Okay, in prophecy, it is approach from the eternal one, or eternal, the elevated world, the spiritual world, into the physical world. Okay, and okay, the prophet, he knows the future. He knows things that other people don't. He knows these secrets. So accordingly, if there is an approach, there is a bond or connection between the eternal world and this world, the elevated world and this world, then it means that according to the elevated world, this materialistic world, has a meaning, has a value. Okay? Again, if a prophet receives prophecy from the eternal one, then it means that this world that the philosopher tried to say that has no meaning and it's all, your whole goal in life is to detach yourself from the materialistic world. But if you're claiming that there is prophecy, okay, he admitted that there might be, right? But then that means that this physical world, has a value, has a meaning. Okay, because otherwise, why would you receive prophecy? For what reason? Okay? Anyway, so that is a contradiction, okay, with his perspective. Okay, that this world has no meaning, and then you're saying that there might be a connection, and that so therefore there is a meaning to this world. Okay, so that is sort of a contradiction with his own words. However, again, we said that his goal is to attach himself to the wisdom, and that therefore attaching himself to the active intellect is the purpose. Prophecy is just a side effect that may come, may not, and it is possible to live without it and to have reality without it. Okay, where we claim that there is no existence without that prophecy. Okay, there is no, otherwise there would be no Torah. Okay, and all the prophecies that we have for all generations. Okay, without that we can't live. Okay. After prophecy ended, okay, so we rely on the prophecies that we received before, and according to the Torah, and we follow that. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, that's basically what we went through here, and with time we have to stop here. Okay. So next time we'll continue with chapter. Yeah. Okay.